What's up everyone and welcome back. Today we're diving into one of the most powerful and dramatic father and son stories in African history. A story of rejection, humiliation, and how hatred itself shaped one of the greatest leaders the continent has ever known. This is the story of King Senzangakhona and his son, the legendary Shaka Zulu. Many people know Shaka as a warrior king, the man who transformed a small clan into a mighty empire, the mastermind of military innovation whose name still echoes through time. But behind that rise lies a childhood drenched in pain, a father's rejection, and a deep wound that turned into unstoppable ambition. Shaka's life did not begin with celebration. He was born into shame. His mother, Nandi, came from the Langeni clan, and her relationship with Senzangakhona was never recognized as a proper marriage. When she became pregnant, Senzangakhona's household mocked her openly. The elders of the court even joked that her swollen belly was not a child at all, but a stomach disease. The ridicule cut deep. And when the baby was finally born, instead of being embraced as a prince, Shaka was treated as a mistake, a stain on his father's reputation, an unwanted reminder of a union that society disapproved of. From his very first days, Shaka felt the heavy hand of rejection. Unlike the other children born into the royal household, he was never embraced as an heir. He was never cradled with pride or groomed for leadership. His father Senzangakhona looked at him not as a son to be celebrated but as a danger to be contained. For a king with many wives and many sons, the question of legitimacy was everything. To favor a child born of an unrecognized union was to destabilize the fragile balance of power in the household. And so, Shaka and his mother Nandi were cast out, sent away to live among the Langeni, where life was merciless. The treatment they endured was brutal. Nandi was constantly humiliated for her past, mocked by the clan for daring to bear a child under such circumstances. And Shaka, the boy who should have grown up with dignity and respect, was instead scorned by children his own age, taunted with cruel names, and beaten down by mockery. But instead of breaking him, these experiences sharpened him. Every insult became fuel, every moment of humiliation turned into steel inside his soul. Shaka learned early that respect would never be given to him, it would have to be taken with his own hands. Senzangakhona's hatred was not only about Shaka's illegitimate birth. It was also about fear. Even as a boy, Shaka showed qualities that made him stand out: his tall stature, his piercing gaze, his physical strength, his intelligence. He carried himself with an aura that unsettled others. In a society where succession disputes were often solved with violence, such a son was dangerous. An illegitimate child who grew into a natural leader could easily threaten the carefully guarded positions of the legitimate heirs. And so, the best way to neutralize that threat was to keep him at arm's length, to deny him the privileges of the royal household, to let him grow up in obscurity. But what Senzangakhona failed to realize was that rejection itself was shaping Shaka into something far more dangerous than a pampered prince. While his half-brothers enjoyed the comfort of the royal kraal, Shaka was being hardened by hunger, sharpened by cruelty, and trained by survival. His spirit was being forged like iron in fire. When he came of age, he joined the army of Dingiswayo, the powerful chief of the Mathethwa. And it was there that his natural brilliance exploded into the open. Shaka was no ordinary warrior. On the battlefield, he was relentless. His strategies were bold, his discipline unmatched, and his ferocity terrifying to his enemies. Dingiswayo immediately recognized his talent, elevating him, trusting him, giving him opportunities to rise. While other men fought simply to survive, Shaka fought to dominate, to prove wrong every insult he had ever endured, to turn the pain of rejection into the power of conquest. When Senzangakhona died, Shaka was not even considered a serious heir. His half-brothers were the ones with the claim to the throne. But with Dingiswayo's support and his own sheer force of will, Shaka seized power. The throne that his father never intended him to touch was now his. And he did not stop there. Shaka transformed the Zulu people. He reorganized the army, reshaped tactics, introduced the deadly short-stabbing spear known as the Ikelwa, and drilled his warriors into a force so disciplined, so unstoppable, that enemies across the region trembled at their approach. The irony of this story is chilling. Senzangakhona hated his son because he feared him. He thought rejecting Shaka would keep him weak, powerless, and irrelevant. Yet that rejection was the very thing that made Shaka strong. The boy who grew up with humiliation on his back became the man who carried an empire on his shoulders. The father who tried to erase him ended up fathering the greatest Zulu king in history. And while Senzangakhona is remembered mostly as Shaka's father, Shaka himself is remembered as the architect of a nation, a legend whose name will never die. This story leaves us with a powerful question. Was Shaka's greatness born within him from the very start, or was it his father's hatred, his society's rejection, and his childhood pain that pushed him to become extraordinary? Perhaps it was both. Perhaps destiny had already chosen him, but the cruelty of his early life sharpened his destiny into something even greater. In the end, Senzangakhona's fear came true. His illegitimate son became not just a king, but the most powerful king the Zulu people ever knew. Shaka's life is proof that greatness often rises from the ashes of rejection, and that sometimes, the very pain meant to break you becomes the foundation of your strength.